Yes, yes, we are live. You know how we do it once again. Here from Mississippi. I'm Michel'le. We appreciate having you here on the podcast, the Reentry Connect podcast. That is, I'm Keenan Hudson, and I am your host, Compassion Chronicles with Michel'le McDowell. Oh my gosh, somebody that has such experience with corrections and has a lot of knowledge, and input and how people should be giving back and helping individuals that may have made the wrong decisions in life. But y'all know how we do it, y'all. Y'all know that we're always going to give that knowledge. We'll give that knowledge. We're going to give that endpoint. You know what I mean? None of us are better than anybody. We all make mistakes. Some of us learn from them early. Some of us learn from them later on in life. But however, when we acknowledge it and we act on it, that's what's going to matter at the end of the day. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump this thing right off. Michel'le, we appreciate having you here. We just want you to go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us where you're from.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And thank you for the opportunity to do what I love and talk about what I love. So as he said, my name is Michel'le McDowell. I reside in Mississippi. One of the places that leads the nation when it comes to incarceration, that's fighting this battle daily to reduce recidivism. I am a mother, a child of God, and an advocate, and someone who truly loves to see God's people be redeemed and restored. Wow. So reentry is life, and reentry is what I live, sleep, eat, and breathe to do.
Wow, powerful, powerful. And Michel'le, I just want to get right into it. So we know, and I just mentioned that you're somebody who has a lot of experience with corrections as a corrections professional. And I know that you know the inside, as well as you know the out. Just from your perspective, in general, what are some of the things you've seen that pretty much like cringed your body a little bit, about people that's incarcerated when they're coming home and things like that? What type of things do you see that that's lacking in the world for individuals that go in and out?
The number one thing that I believe wholeheartedly is lacking is, like I always tell people, compassion. And that's on every side and every avenue. That comes from the people that work there. That comes from the people out on the outside. That comes from the people who are in the hiring positions, those who are in position in the house, those who've been formerly incarcerated. I feel like we have just gotten such a notation from media and movies that all people are bad and they stay bad and they're bad for forever. Or that we should judge them and they should walk around with a scarlet letter on them for the rest of their lives. And it's not like that. It pays 0 cents and it costs nothing to actually be kind. It costs nothing to go the extra mile. So when you're working there, you have to understand that this is somebody's life at the end of the day. 5 minutes to you is 5 days and 5 years to them because they cannot physically do it themselves. So if I have a headache, I can easily go get some Tylenol. But if this person has a headache, they have to put in a request. They have to wait on another person. If I'm hungry, I can go fix myself something to eat. But this person has to wait on a certain meal time to be able to eat. Or they have to have money to be able to eat and cook on their own. And then you have to wait on a microwave. Like it's an inconvenience. And it's a delay in everything that they need. So therefore, you have to take that urgency twice as fast or twice as considerate, because you never know. Let's say I'm a diabetic. I really may need that meal right now because my sugar is dropping. Let's say that the headache I was just referring to, it may be a migraine, but it may be a blood vessel that's trying to bust in my head. So I've seen people just be, and I'll get to when I get ready. No, the same care and concern that you have for yourself or your family members, we have to still show that care and concern for those that are incarcerated at the end of the day. I love to tell people, these are unlearned people. These are unhealed people. So your job in corrections is to correct that behavior. And some people just don't know. Some people, this is a trauma response. Some people, this is how they've seen other people in their family units respond or talk or communicate. So you have to be willing sometimes to go that extra mile and stop and have a 5-minute conversation and say, hey, I don't know how you've addressed women in the past, but you will not address me as that. I don't condone cursing, calling people out of name. You address me as Miss Blank or Mr. Whoever, because some people never taught mannerisms, from childhood. Me being from the South, that's a part of your upbringing. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And some people still to this day deem it as disrespectful. But some people were never taught that. So when somebody just yells out, sometimes that's all they know. Or when somebody just responds in a way that may be aggressive, you don't know if they've been around aggression all of their lives, even
So
on the
let me ask
outside.
you a question. I'm sorry. So by you knowing a lot of the knowledge of this now, is this hereditary? Like, has your family ever been a part of the correction sector as well, or like how has that been for you? Like,
So
how's that been like a part of your life? Or do you have people that was incarcerated that you knew of, like in the past? Like, so how was that? How were you able to reflect that?
I have family that has and is currently incarcerated. I have
Mhm.
family that has worked in corrections for years. My mom, she was in corrections mostly all of my life. So my doorway, as I would say, it came from her. Seeing her come home every day in a uniform, seeing her put that uniform on, leave out in the early morning, take a 12-hour shift, and come back. And so I had knowledge of it. And I never thought it was a field that I would just, run into wide open with my heart open with it. But once I got in it, I saw the need, I saw the people, and I just couldn't pull away from it. And I had stints where I tried to go to nursing school. It didn't work out. I tried to take other career paths, but nothing was as fulfilling as working with individuals who have been incarcerated and are incarcerated. Because I feel like they've been looked over so many times. I feel like once they get those sentence orders and they get that time, people just shut the door and they forget that those people still exist. They forget that those people still have a purpose. And most of all, they forget that those people can still be restored and redeemed with the right rehabilitation, with the right push, and most of all, instilling hope in them. Because that's where a lot of the failures come from. When you take a person's hope, you take away their ability to see. And if you don't have vision for your life, if you don't have vision for your future, you will begin to believe that you don't have a future. And then you
Mhm.
sometimes turn to other ways because you can't see what's on the other side of the issues in front of you. And so, like I said, corrections to me is a ministry. Helping people is a
Mhm.
ministry. So that's what has truly drawn me in. But I would honestly say from the beginning, my mom was my biggest inspiration in the getting in corrections. She would come home and I would hear her on the phone with her friends who worked with her, and they would talk about all the things that went on at the prison every day. And I was like, oh my God, it's like another world over there. And so
Okay.
she actually opened the door for me to get my first job in corrections, working at a prison with her. And she's no
Mhm.
longer here, but I thank God that I had the opportunity to even work alongside her in corrections.
Wow. So you have, like you said, you have individuals that are incarcerated from your family. You have, people from the past. Your mother, the rest her soul, was a part of corrections, and now it's just a part of you. Very seldom do you see people that have worked in corrections or around corrections that has a compassion or a heart to say, "Wow, I want to work on the other side of this. I want to do some counseling. I want to help people to know that there is a better life than this." Because most people, when they grow up and they're going in, foster home to foster home, to group home, and then eventually they do their little first little placement bid, then going to their first county bid, it becomes like a snowball effect that lands them into the penitentiary. So, and a lot of times, a lot of people don't have that guidance. So, when they do come home, if they don't have that mentor, they don't know how important it is to have one because they develop trust issues. They don't really want to deal with nobody or listen to what people have to say. Most people that are incarcerated do have a problem with authority. You know what I mean? So when people come home, you try to correct them or try to order them to do something. Yeah, we have a problem with correction. For the simple fact is, a lot of correction officers oftentimes abuse their authority.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So it becomes like a battle, a tug of war. I'm wondering why a person doesn't want to change in a way. So if you can touch on um, so when you see individuals that's from Mississippi or wherever, what are some of the outlets people can take advantage of? Like I know there's many like community resources and things like that. What are some resources, just for example, that's in Mississippi that probably could be applied to any other state that's around us?
So I always say you have your two-tier level. So, of course, most people have a Department of Rehab Services in their states. Most people have your social services. Most people have your food stamp office. That's your state level stuff. Then you have that second tier. And to me, that's your nonprofits. That's your churches. That's your ministries. Those are your people who, even like yourself, who've been formerly incarcerated, and now they have a platform or organization that can be able to assist those who've been formerly incarcerated. So here we are. I would say we're scarce here. It's very hard because a lot of our laws, which are Jim Crow laws from history, and a lot of them are still in place today, unfortunately. And a lot of barriers have been placed legislative wise that make it kind of hard to progress in Mississippi towards reentry. So the idea of even reentry is still new in Mississippi, if that makes sense to you. Like, I know people love to talk about us being behind, but we're playing catch up. So a lot of things that have been in states for, 10 plus 15 years, Mississippi is just now getting a hold of or shedding light on. So when it comes to resources, they're building, but a lot of the nonprofits, they are struggling here because they need finances, they need grants, they need people who will pour into them, who will donate to them. And they struggle, but they're doing the best that they can with what they have. So you have the Hope Dealers, that's an organization here in Mississippi. You have Mark, that's an organization here in Mississippi. There is Gracefully Broken here in Mississippi. There's the Sacred Place. There's God's House of Hope. There are so many nonprofits and church or just people who have a heart for this, and they've taken that direction and said, well, hey, I'm going to also serve those who are formerly incarcerated. So I would say we are in such a building state, and I do see momentum coming as resources come and money comes, but Mississippi is still far behind when it comes to what we can do and what we should be doing to be able to give people those resources because of lack of funding, lack of community, lack of even just everybody sitting at the table together. There have been a couple of spaces I've been in where I've seen people meet, but it's not the magnitudes, it's not the multitudes, it's not all of the right people. So it's just connecting the dots, and I can kind of see that happening here where you have your north, south, and central connecting, or people understanding now that, well, this ministry is up in North Mississippi. So I've also seen on Facebook there's somebody in the South doing the same thing. Maybe we should connect. So that's where our downfall is here. And so it's getting a little better, but for the most part, you just have to be aware of what's in your town, what's in your community right now, until the latter part comes later of us really growing it and connecting all the dots. And once we can get that super resource guide together, and there are some things online, like a Mississippi resource guide, but it's not as effective as it should be with listing everybody. Because like I said, a lot of agencies are popping up now, coming along, and as people get funding, they're growing.
Gotcha. And that's cool that you say that. And I know a lot of people, as I mentioned before, like I know people talk about the down south and things like that, like how people are, they'll get arrested for nothing. And we see so many brutality videos and stuff like that that go on. And that's going on all around America. There's some things that's just not, posted, on social media. You know what I mean? So I know that it can be tough for individuals. So if you could like expound a little bit more, like as far as the style of work, like when it comes to social work, like one-on-one counseling, can you explain, especially to the people that may be listening now that may be incarcerated, can you explain more about why therapy may be a little important for individuals in general?
Therapy is so important because and I like to flip things biblically and spiritually because I am a devout Christian and devout believer. But let's just talk about generational curses. So you may see a whole family and the entire bloodline has been in prison, or the entire bloodline is alcoholics, or the entire bloodline gambles. Most people don't ever sit down and say, what's going on with that family that everybody does it? They just pick up that habit and they run with it. And then once incarceration comes into play, you'll hear people joke or say, the whole family been in prison. The whole family's been in jail. There's something going on in those dynamics from adolescenthood to even being an infant that is not being nurtured in that individual to make them turn and go the other way. So, for example, I have a family member who struggles with alcoholism. I saw that struggle. And though even in my own life, especially in college, when you have free will, and I saw myself going down the left, the first thing that popped up in my mind was, I don't want to be so-and-so, so-and-so. For the average person that's dealing with trauma and generational curses and wounds that they've never healed from, that thought does not come up because they're trying to numb it and they're trying to suppress it. If you're in the South, for example, we have a saying here, and people still live by it: what goes on in your house stays in your house. So a lot of people did not seek counseling or did not have outlets to speak or to be able to even just heal from, because what they needed to come out was pushed behind closed doors. So when you're dealing with people who've been raped, who've been molested, who've been abused, who've seen people be murdered in front of them, you have to deal with those issues. Otherwise, they will continuously take seed form and they will grow. And they will come out in ways that you never imagined because you have not addressed them. When you see a person, I say it all the time, I call myself like the silent assassin. I'm really good at de-escalating. My friends will tell you that. People who work with me will tell you that I'm just really good at it. And that's because I take time to listen. So there was an instance one time where there was an individual just loud. You know, when people in prison want to get attention, they get loud. They bam on the doors. They scream. I'm going to walk up to that person just as quiet and stand there. And I'm going to wait on them to calm down. I'm waiting on them to stop. Other people get agitated. Why are you making all that noise? I said, it's like a negative and a positive. You can't do the exact same behavior and expect to get something different. This person obviously does not understand that communication does not mean that you have to be aggressive, scream, yell to get attention. But in their former life, that may have been the only way that they got attention when they act out. So this is why you have to teach them. Hey, I respect your opinion regardless of whether you're yelling or not. Hey, I hear you. You are recognized. You are appreciated. I'm considering what you're saying, and this is what I'm going to do behind what you're saying. Like, it's so important, because if we don't, we just pass them along to our children. We pass them along to those around us, and we will bleed on individuals that we never meant to bleed on. It's really true. Hurt people. And this is how you now have developed a community of people who are enraged, anger, having fights, aggression, when you are incarcerated. If you don't deal with that trauma, if you don't go to the root of why he's been stealing, why he's been in and out of jail, why he's been depressed, why he's on medication, then how can you ever help a person? You got to heal their soul first before you ever heal that person. And so healing the soul comes from, what is the root of it? Where did it begin from? Where did that idea in your mind that you were never good enough and never going to be anything come from? Why do you not believe that you're not capable of turning your life around? Why do you think that this is the end? Is it because somebody spoke that over you as a child? Or is it because you saw defeat in everybody else's life and you just accepted it? So we've got to deal with the trauma. You got to, in order to grow, you got to elevate, you got to be able to change your demeanor and your direction of your life. Walking in the same direction, like I tell people, working against the wall, it gets you nowhere.
Wow. Yeah, you have some comments here, Ms. Jasmine. She said, that's good, sis. I have some other people. Mr. Cole, she's giving you a round of applause. We appreciate you. Deanna, she's over here saying hola, saying hi. It's actually my sister. It's from over in New York. But that's very powerful that you can give that input. And I know you mentioned something earlier about how even where you're at, your current situation in which, like you say, you're in Mississippi and you want to make an impact. You said that, hey, people, my peers, people want to make a difference. So what made you want to stay where you're at versus moving to a different part or, transforming your lifestyle to something different? What made you want to stay where you're at?
So, believe me, I tried everything in my power to move out of the state of Mississippi. When all of my friends left, I wanted to leave. I applied for jobs in other states. And it was like, for the life of me, I could not get a job in another state. And I'm like, why, God? Even stuff that I knew I was overqualified for, it's just like every door shut. And so I sat in prayer just asking God, like, what is it? Why am I still here? And then he slowly started to kind of opened up the doors of what my purpose was. And so one of the biggest, I think, dynamics that changed my perspective on why I should be here and what I should be doing with my life was, like I was saying, my mom was in corrections all of my life. And she decided that she wanted to date somebody who was formerly incarcerated. So he had been incarcerated for 30 years. They knew each other prior to him being incarcerated, like from high school. And they dated, and he stayed out 6 months. And then he decided that he wanted to take her life in front of my kids and myself. And so I tell people all the time, I was kidnapped first and held hostage prior to him taking her. And so I had a chance to talk to him for like an hour and a half. And there was one side of me that was a corrections official. So I taught cognitive behavior, I taught anger management. Then there's another side of me that is a devout Christian. I know the word of God, what it says. You know, I know how to minister to you, pray with you. Let's get through this. And that day, it's like neither one of those sides were working for me. No matter what I said.
Before you jump over that, because you shared something. You said somebody was murdered.
My mom was.
Your mom was murdered. So that's a powerful, and I know we skipped straight to reentry, but here it is. I know that you were probably traumatized by this event that took place.
I was. And that's why I was going to double back on that about how we have to deal with trauma. Because even myself trying to go back to work, I had to work through a lot of trauma. Even my kids are grown up in this life. They love prison. They love corrections. They love laws. Like my kids are just different because this is the life that they've been, introduced to, and they go where I go and they attend things that I attend. But at the same time, I had to go back and do some healing, and I had to go through a lot of counseling, a lot of seeking God, and also alternatives to kind of heal me and them so that we would all still share this perspective of understanding that second chances matter, of understanding that people can change. And that was the thing of it. That day, I was in both hats. The side of me that I know ministry-wise, I can talk to people and get them to come to Christ and change. And then as a professional, I can introduce them to programs, different ways of thinking, and get them to change. But nothing worked for him. So when I sat at home trying to decide, was I going to go back to work? Was I going to pick up my reentry hat again? One of the things that hit my mind was after 30 years, like, he never got what he needed. He never dealt with the trauma. He never dealt with the anger. He never dealt with the anxiety. He never dealt with fighting off the fact that when you are incarcerated, you don't have to become incarcerated in your mind. You don't have to become institutionalized. And I know myself, I've seen people transform. You know, they can come in one way and leave another. So I'm like, Michel'le, you can't do that. I've never in my life asked people why they were in prison before. I've never in my life, even if I found out what they were in prison for, judged them or mistreated them. And I honestly loved what I did. So I could let one person take that away from me and take my life's work that I had already done, or I could turn it into a fueling point and push forth and show enough advocate and talk about the issues and push for reform and push for more programs and come up with innovative ideas in the platform that I can serve with my job. So it kind of made me shift gears. And it gave me my fuel to my fire to be able to say, this is what I'm called to do. This is my purpose. This is my destiny. And then I always tell myself, I feel like I'm the poster child for corrections. I grew up in it. I worked in it, and then, becoming a victim of it. But I also am a product of what redemption can do. So I had to forgive. I had to be able to turn off my eyelids and say, I still see the good in this person, even because of what they've done or because of what they've been charged with. And as a disciple of Christ, that's what we're called to do anyway, because we've all fallen short. We've all done things that we should not have done. It's just grace and mercy. Some of us didn't get caught. Me, myself, some of my friends, they know, Lord, I don't know what would happen.
Don't talk too much. Don't talk too much.
Yeah, on Friday night about 10, 12 years ago, especially in college. But we've all done things, and we all know people. We all have people in our family. Some of them not right. People say, "Hey, I need a TV." Well, I know little John who probably got some now. And so, it's taboo around it. And I feel like people do it in order to make themselves feel better. And it's not right, because all it takes is one person coming into your life sometimes and speaking positive to change your outlook, or giving you a heads up or giving you an example, or opening a door for you in your life changing overnight. So why not be that person? Why not extend grace? If I have the ability to hire you, why not take a chance on somebody who's already having to fight 10 steps behind where the average person is, and giving them that hand up to be able to do it, So
yeah, and to add to that, like you said, being able to do that, even something like a simple letter of encouragement can go a long way for an individual that's incarcerated. Not only that, but I was talking to somebody earlier, telling them, people try to say, game is like life is like a game of chess. When in reality, in some instances it is, but not always. Because in chess, everybody starts out with the same pieces.
Mm-hmm.
In life, that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't have family. Some people don't have that support. Some people don't have that counselor to encourage them. You know what I mean? So again, going back to even sending a simple letter or a simple encouraging word, it goes a long way. And I appreciate, you sharing that, and what you've been through and the traumatization that people go through, because we don't know the entirety of everybody's situation, especially the mental game. There's a lot to do with prison. Prison wasn't more so a physical thing. Physical was more a mental thing. You know what I'm saying? It was more psychological, to keep yourself into doing the time instead of the time doing you. Most times people allow that time to set in on them. And like you said, they do all these years, and next thing you know, they on a run. They done did some stuff they wasn't supposed to do. And now it's like that. Like I'm looking at myself in the mirror, like, what did I do with my life? And then it's becoming a prevalent thing. It's becoming a revolving door where a lot of our children's children, like people that, that was here before us, they started bearing children that's following the same footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But how do we break that generational curse? So I just want you to share too. I know that you got some organizations and things like that that you wanted to talk with. Before I'm going to just shout out. This says Miller right here. She says, great way to explain that positive perspective. Appreciate it, Jan. She said, you don't have to be incarcerated in your mind. Yeah, you're right. But it's a lot of people that's out here, that's in the world, that's incarcerated in their mind, minus the bars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All the time. I've never, they say, why are you so relatable? I said, because I've never been incarcerated, but I have been in my mind. I also went through domestic violence for some years. I was in a bad marriage, and I was locked up in my mind. I was free on the outside, but I was not free in my mind. And when I broke free, it was such a liberating experience. So I understand what that's like to be mentally drained. I understand the issues, even coming out being a bold person again, finding myself again, loving myself again. There were so many things that I had to fight through mentally in order to be who I am now. And there were labels attached to me and stigmas attached to me. And it's hard when you've been a victim of stuff, or it's hard when you've been through trauma. So a lot of people don't think about that. Even just, for example, during the kidnapping situation, going to places like Walmart, it was so hard for me afterwards because it had you paranoid, feeling like, something was going to happen. I was scared to trust again. Like, it was so many bridges that had to be crossed again just to be a normal person. And that's what a lot of people who face incarceration go through. So, like you said, if you don't have that family, if you don't have people extending grace, putting a hand out, just helping you understand who you are, and you're now no longer that number behind your name or those letters behind your name or that charge behind your name. It's a real reinvention and revolution of self when you come out of incarceration.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I want you to share. So I know you got a couple little organizations that you say that you're involved with or even know, and you're shouting out. So you have an organization in here that says Hope Dealers Prison Reform. Wow. So can you elaborate on that one?
So Hope Dealers is a prison reform group that is up and on the move in Mississippi. I love dearly the work that they're doing because this is a group of passionate individuals. The leader is Nicole, and she is amazing. She is a fireball. And I truly see like where God's hand is over her life and where she's going to take the world by storm. And it'll be a Hope Dealers, hopefully in every single state across the nation.
What's her name again? What's your name
Nicole.
again?
She's actually in the comment section.
Okay, Nicole. Cool.
You
That
know,
is great. We appreciate that,
connect with her.
Nicole.
She's in the
Feel free
comments.
to drop your handle in the comments, Nicole, so people know how to get in contact. We appreciate that. We got another one here, Mississippi Association for Returning Citizens. Go ahead and elaborate.
Mississippi Association for Returning Citizens is an organization that I also hold dearly to my heart. Mostly all of these I do, but I am a member as well. They do the work on the inside and they follow through on the outside. So they have a Facebook page, they have a website page. You can get involved if you are in Mississippi because they do have instructors that go inside the facilities and they are not paid. So it's volunteer. But the work that they do on the outside, they need funding for it. So even if you just want to donate to them, and they do things like helping with, when somebody needs, let's say a fee to get into a recovery home, or they need clothing, or they need a bus ticket, even just the basics of hygiene items to get out. People don't think about that. You're starting completely over from scratch. People need clothes, underwear, shoes, a roof over their head, job opportunities, transportation. So Mark tries to assist with as much as they can financially on the outside, and they also still do group work on the outside. So once you get a mentor on the outside, that person is also going to walk you through, and you get to meet them on the inside too, because they do classes for reentry and cognitive behavior on the inside.
Appreciate that. Okay, we had Clergy for Prison Reform.
So Clergy for Prison Reform is also another organization I'm a part of, and this is the church. This is God's people, his leaders, pastors, prophets, evangelists from all around the state of Mississippi who said, hey, we're going to stand hand in hand and push for reform, because this is what we're called to do. We are called to the least and the lost. We're called to be able to go in the behind closed doors and pray for the sick and lay hands on them. So Clergy for Prison Reform, it's statewide. Like I said, they have a Facebook page as well, and they do a lot of advocacy work within the state.
That's cool. Now you have one here. Is this just a scripture or is this the actual organization?
So this is mine. This is my personal baby, and it's
okay.
And so it's a ministry / organization that I'm birthing now, and I truly know God is going to use to be able to help me with women who are incarcerated and domestic violence victims.
Cool. Okay, we got another one here. The Sacred Place, restoring the least, the lost, and the left out. So curious. So I know like a lot of these are definitely spiritually based. Even this one now, even though they're spiritually based, are all of them the ones that are spiritually based? Are they reentry programs as well, or they're just
they are. They are. So the Sacred Space is kind of like your all-around wraparound services, and this is why I love it so much. The owners were formerly incarcerated, and it was truly just God touching their lives and breaking addiction off of their backs, breaking labels, stigmas off of them, and blessing them with this business that is now taking over a neighboring city, Greenville, by storm. And when I say by storm, this is a 17-year vision that my friend has, Crystal Bush. And it started with a building of her wanting to help the homeless. And then her wanting to help those who've been addicted, because she struggled in the past with those. So that's her ministry personally. And then it went on into reentry because she also does prison ministry as well. So it's just a wraparound. And most of the time, one struggle leads to another, so those people just can connect, and it's hand in hand. So if you're just homeless and you need a meal, they serve food to the community twice a week, every week. If, like, for example, you're homeless and it's a storm that comes through, they'll give you a place to stay. If you want to go through their addiction program, you can. If you want to come straight out of prison and go through their transitional program, you can. And it's just growing. It's growing. She's getting more facilities, and I really believe God is going to bless her to be able to take the state by storm. And the community has just really connected with her, where people just pour in and donate, because there's fruit behind it. You can truly see people come there, and I don't mean wait a month and get a job. These ladies and these men come in and get a job in 2 and 3 days. You can click, and she also is open to children, so that's a big thing in this area too. Not only if you have kids that need to come, then they're open to accepting those children as well with you. And they also celebrate Recovery, which is geared towards addiction, but they have Celebrate Recovery that comes there and does services. So normally you would see that with your AANA, but Celebrate Recovery is another similar program for those that don't know. So they offer that services as well.
The Sacred, what's her name again? Shout her out.
Crystal Bush.
Crystal Bush. That's powerful. You know, these resources is here. Then especially hear a story for people that have been through the experience, coming out and sharing, hey,
I'm telling you, and that's why I love it so much, because Crystal will tell you, if you're looking at by man, she should not own anything that she owns because she has a conviction behind her name, because she has a criminal record. But the hand that God,
they don't have the final say so.
That's that. I'm telling you, and I love her so much. And she's a free-hearted person. She'll get her shirt off her back, and she just has a passion for helping. Like it says, the lost and the least.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And the last but not least, I know this one. I know Kairos because I'm gonna tell you an interesting story. This Kairos. So I went on to Virginia on an interstate compact agreement, where they transferred a lot of PA inmates down to Virginia. And Virginia actually had Kairos Ministry come in there, and they would come in, they would try to bait the inmates in with a bunch of cookies and coffee and stuff like that. they know that, you know, that's what keep people coming back and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't a coffee drinker. I think coffee is for old people.
Hey.
Coffee for old people. But I was able to work it and actually eat, like, you know, they had the cookies and stuff like that, and serve the in there. And Kairos was actually a powerful ministry that, you know, where a lot of people did come in. But go ahead, you can expound on it though if you would like.
So Kairos is nationwide. It is a prison ministry that goes behind bars and changes lives. And the funny thing is, I heard about Kairos from someone who was incarcerated while I was working one day. And they all said, Ms. Maynard, you should be a part of Kairos. And I was like, okay. And I didn't think twice about it. And then through work, and Kairos began to come into the facility where I was. So I began to see the work that they were doing, and they would have group sessions. And like you said, they brought treats, and most of them were homemade. And so I really saw people engaged. I really saw people connecting. The volunteers were always so warm. And so lo and behold, flip the script. 2 years later, they actually asked me to become a member. Just like that person spoken over my life. And I absolutely love it. I love it because it's not just an organization that is doing it just to do it. When I tell you the time, the detail, the training, and it's so crazy for me to see it working there, but to now be able to see it behind the scenes, the intimacy, the connections, the way they pray over everything that they do, the way that they are so like dedicated. Nobody is getting paid. It's volunteer, and they are dedicated to seeing lives transform. They're dedicated. When they have their retreats, when they go on the inside for 3 days and they see the 30 or 40 individuals, those volunteers come from all over the state. Those volunteers are dedicating their time, their blood, their sweat, and their tears. The letters that they write, there are detailed letters handwritten to people. So let's just say, I know the retreat that I'm getting ready to do with them. There are 40 individuals in that retreat. That person, all 40 of those ladies are going to receive 40 different letters of love from all 40 of the volunteers. So imagine when you haven't heard from your family in a year, or you have nobody that constantly writes to you or talks to you, and you get to leave one weekend with 40 love cards, as I would call them, 40 love tokens or words of inspiration from 40 different people that didn't know you prior to that weekend, but spent the weekend trying to help you come through your trauma, help you come through your issues, and make you be what's the word I want to use? Instilling you again. I'll just say that. Instilling you self-righteous, the dignity, the person that you should have been, and pull out those things again so that you walk away being transformed that week. Because it's different when you go to church service, but when somebody is hand in hand with you, you can cry on their shoulder that weekend.
Yeah, I've definitely seen in that actual setting, you know, a lot of men, especially a lot of gangsters, they go there, you know, you think they go there for the cookies, but I've seen a lot of them break down in places like that. And
I
a lot
love
of times people
it's
try
like
to keep that confidential, but yeah, that's great. Like I say, Kairos is definitely good. I know that, you know, I know we're running on time, Freedom, but it's okay. And I know that you have a lot of input. You gave a lot of people the shout outs to everybody she just shouted out concerning, like I say, all those ministries and outreaches. Feel free to reach out if y'all want to post it into the chat. That's cool. I'm all for that. And I just want to say, if you can give one type of motivational quote to somebody that's watching right now and that's behind a jail cell, about in a reentry house, an NAAA recovery center, what would you say to them?
Oh, you put me on the spot with that one, but I would just say no matter what, there is always greater ahead. I don't care if you are behind closed doors. I don't care if you're battling with depression. I don't care if you're suicidal right now. There is still greater ahead. Do not lose hope in the wait. Do not lose hope in the struggle. Do not lose hope waiting on the breakthrough, because at the end of the day, that storm will pass by and things will get better. It's just about you believing and you fighting till you see the other side of it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And y'all already know it's Keenan Hudson. I'm the Reentry Connect podcast host, Compassion Chronicles, Miss Michel'le McDowell. Y'all know how we do it. Powerful. Feel free to like, share, subscribe this video here. A lot of information, a lot of deep things going on there. Again, this is a platform where we're going from different perspectives. Here it is, an individual that was a professional in corrections. You know what I mean? That gave you her insight, her own experience. You know what I mean? So if anything, y'all just reach out, feel free. Like I said, her name going to be in the bio. Her name's going to be on the video. Feel free to reach out to her. All social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. Let's go. All right. But without further ado, everybody, y'all have a good night. We appreciate y'all enjoying the show. Thank you, Miss Michel'le. Peace.
Thank you.